I see fights all the time, pick up basketball.
Right.
That's
Or
just,
you see
but when
fights
you're
all the time in hockey.
in hockey, but you know what? But they say that's part of the game in hockey,
Right.
right? Which I always think there's
Right.
always that double standard because I'm not even gonna go down that rabbit hole again.
Yo, this is the Inflection Collective. All of us are connected, reflective, real life perspective, respected. The banter, the chit chat, no cap is big facts. So kick back. This here is done there, been there.
We're going to talk about mental health a little bit right now with our first topic, which is Draymond Green. He has been suspended by the NBA for. Is the suspension for the last offense, or is it an accumulation of offenses why he has been
definitely
suspended?
For an accumulation. This is the reason why he got suspended indefinitely. This Draymond Green has had several suspensions throughout his career, including in the NBA Finals. He's been ejected out of 3 games out of the 15 games he's played. One time he got suspended early this year for choking Rudy Gobert, and then the last one, Yusuf Nurkic, where he just basically turned around and knocked the hell out of him for just for simple purposes there. So yeah, it's an accumulation of his past behavior. The reason why he's been suspended indefinitely. Now there's a report that came out today that said that he might be out up to 3 to 4 weeks because he has started counseling and he understands that his behavior can't continue to go if he wants to continue to play in the NBA. So that's the start.
And so that's all we can hope for any of us is that we recognize there is a challenge or an issue and that we seek things that can help us adjust those challenges. I think what's interesting about Draymond's situation, though, and it's how it segues into life. I've seen people say that, well, just because he's like that in a game doesn't mean he has a problem or that he needs to get counseling. Some people say some people are just fiery and competitive. I have known athletes who have been ordered to get anger management by their team because there's a fine line, or there isn't such a fine line. Everybody out there that's an athlete, you're competitive, you're hungry, you can taste the blood in the water, you want to finish them. I think that's all understood. It crosses that line, though, and I think what's concerning to me about Draymond, and it makes me curious about how does he handle challenges and frustrations personally. Ain't my business. I will make no assumptions. But when you have already been ejected, gotten as many technicals, the eyes are on you anyway for your behavior. If you can't control yourself in the next moment, in front of an audience, in front of a crowd, in front of TV cameras, it makes you wonder, like, how is he handling his challenges in private?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we also saw
or does
how
it not
he's
make you
handling
wonder that?
certain things that he's handling even behind closed doors, even when he's not on television. I mean, remember, he got suspended by his team just last year for knocking the hell out of Poole. His teammate, who's no longer
At
his
practice,
teammate. They
right?
yelled at him at practice, and the video
But I
came
mean,
out
like
about
people
that.
in his life, like family members. Yeah,
Yeah,
but like in private, is he the guy that you don't want to play cards with because he's going to be ready to fight everybody at the party? Like, I'm curious, how does that translate in his personal life outside of basketball?
We haven't heard. I mean, from what I understand, I've been around Draymond a little bit. I can't say I know him, but I think we know of each other. And he's always been cool. I think he just has this switch that kind of comes on when he's in the heat of competition. We see it when it comes to entertainers sometimes. People like Beyonce, Prince, they were introverts. Prince was an introvert. Beyonce's an introvert. But when she gets on stage, she becomes Sasha Fierce and she gets into that moment. I think with Draymond, like you mentioned, there's a competitive spirit that he has that he needs that edge because although he's a great player and he's good to his team, he's not an all-star or all-pro caliber player, so he has to play with that edge. But when it goes over the line where it starts not affecting just you, but affecting your teammates and you're not available to your team, then it's a little bit too far. But we're talking about that edge. So as a person that we've been here before, we have different personalities. I know you have a personality of your own, especially when you got into the broadcast industry as a TV morning anchor. We've both been in situations where, just like you was talking about Draymond, there are people that want him to play with their fire, but where is that line? And when people are trying to control you, how far do you allow them to control you? Because I know I got plenty of stories over my 29-year career. I can understand there is a part of you that wants to be free. But at the end of the day, just like in the NBA or the NFL, there are codes, there are ethics, there are standards, it's their way. They always say it's not what do they say? It is not a right to play in the NFL or the NBA. It's a privilege. And I think at some of these companies, it's the same way. Not to say it is right, but I lost myself because of that. So when it comes to Draymond Green, there is a line that he cannot cross because once again, it's not just hurting him, but he's hurting the image of the league, hurting the image of the Golden State Warriors. While I still want that fiery play, he's got to find out what is the compromise so that he can play the way he wants to play and be the man that he wants to be. Like you said, we don't hear anything off the court, which is a great thing. But at the same time, you got to find out where that line is and make sure you don't cross it. People like me, sometimes I'll get that line and I'll move that like 2 feet because I'm never going to cross the line, but I'm going to move it up.
But as far as Draymond, I think the line that I don't think is that blurry that he keeps crossing is you can't punch people.
Yeah, you can't kick people in the nuts.
I don't think that's up for a lot of interpretation. I think it's, hey, you can't stop hitting people.
Yeah.
You can't choke them. That's it. Right. Stop doing that. Yeah. We'll put Draymond in our stop doing that segment. Stop choking people, Draymond. Dang, you play too rough.
And I do believe that there is that, once again, like we want to support Draymond because we see that edge. And like you mentioned, I think there are certain things that you can get away with when you're not on somebody's air, when you're not on somebody's court, which I mean the NBA, air meaning the broadcast. If you're playing pickup basketball, we see that all. I see fights all the time, pickup basketball.
Right.
That's just,
you see fights all the time in hockey.
In hockey, but you know what? But they say that's part of the game in hockey, right? Which I always think there's always that double standard because I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole because I don't want to be called.
I saw the rabbit in the hole before you went.
You saw it. You already know where I'm going, but everybody out there understands where I want to go with that, but I'm not. But when it comes to certain leagues, when it comes to certain organizations, like I said, there's a standard. We want you to be yourself. We want you to give that fiery attitude. We want you to bring that passion. But when your passion crosses the line, it's too much. When your personality crosses the line, it's too much. I know we're both doing stand. You've been doing stand-up longer than I have. I know certain things that I say on that stage. I can't say that in Fox Sports. I can't do that.
Right.
I can't. So I know where that limitation is. And so as somebody that I as a fan of Draymond Green's and a fan of anybody else who has that kind of fiery attitude, like even Dennis Rodman back in the day, I hope he can find it because he's too valuable not to be on the court for his basketball team right now.
And let me say something about athletes specifically, and I would say transferable ideas. Like, we can't say what we say on stage in different settings, but a lot of times athletes, especially if they've been athletic from middle school, high school, college, pros, they don't realize that their colleagues and teammates, they interact with them totally different than people interact with people. And I've seen athletes kind of offend people because you can be talking so much trash to your teammate. You can call him names because it's a fun rapport. We're talking trash. You say that to just somebody at the bank. It's like, oh my gosh, he just told me to get his face. You can say that to your teammate that's guarding you. You know what I'm saying? Like, so sometimes it's those little moments where it's like, hey, you're in a unique situation where you guys go back and forth. You have this engagement. You talk a certain way. You can trash talk. You're on the same team. You love each other. But how many fights do you get in football practice a day? 13, 15, 25. But they're teammates. It's because they're passionate. They're fiery. Maybe somebody covered them. Maybe somebody, tackled them too hard or whatever. But sometimes those communication tactics don't transfer into just everyday world and people. One time, and this is really dating me, but y'all know I'm grown and sexy. But back when I was at ESPN, but this was 1,000 years ago at ESPN. John Elway came up to ESPN for something, and everybody was so excited. The great John Elway, and everybody's kind of around him. And the one thing I will never forget is he was talking, and at some point he licked his hand and rubbed his arm, and I was disgusted.
What?
Okay, now an NFL quarterback, they lick their hands. Like, but regular people don't just lick your hand while you standing there talking. So keep in mind, I'm watching everybody's hands. He's shaking, and I'm like, he licked his hand. He licked his hand. It was like he was trying to like maybe get something off his arm or something, but it wasn't even a thought for him. But I've seen, the quarterbacks lick their hands before they call for the ball, behind.
Because they want to get a better grip on the football. We get that. I don't know what kind of grip he wants.
But I would never forget when he did that. I was like, did he just lick his hand? Did I shake it? Had he licked it before I shook it? But those are little things that if he licked his hand on a football field, it would not be a thought. Nobody would even think anything about it. But you said it in a TV studio licking your hand. I don't know. I was bothered. But whether it's things in sports that don't transfer, spitting, like it's a lot of things that just happen in the context of sports.
What are we talking about? No, well, you can't pat anybody.
Come on, quit playing. Athletes say, come on, let's get it, get some hustle. It's not a thing. But I'm saying you wouldn't do that if you weren't playing. You wouldn't just spit or you wouldn't, so it's a lot of things that athletes do at work that do not transfer into just being a human in polite, proper society. But Draymond, it's not okay to choke nobody nowhere.
You can't choke nobody. No, well, depending on what you can choke, so you can get away. But somebody gonna
come
choke.
On, see how you in these rabbit holes. Calm down, Mike.
Choke. I'm just saying, if somebody deserved to be choked, then I get it. Somebody deserved to be punched, I get it. But Jordan Poole, from what I understand, didn't do. He just talked. So anyway, Draymond, what he's doing is way over the line. I'm
over the line. We're happy he's getting counseling, and you don't have to get suspended to get counseling. Counseling is a wonderful tool for any and everybody who has a brain or a heart or a mind.
He understands mental health is a real thing. Doesn't mean that you're crazy. Doesn't mean that you're a bad person. Mental health, when you go get therapy, means that you want to make yourself a better person. I don't think anybody's calling Draymond Green a bad person because, like you mentioned, I'm glad you brought up, we haven't heard anything about off the court issues with him, just on the court behavior, whatever that needs to be addressed. So if he's going to therapy to make himself a better person, I think all of us could do the same because no one I don't know about you, Eunice, is perfect. And we all need to do something that we can do to better ourselves so that we can better ourselves around other people as well.
Yeah, and I think there's always been a stigma around therapy and counseling, particularly for African Americans. They pray about it, go to church, and then particularly for African American men. So hopefully this might be some great, wonderful opportunity for Draymond to kind of be a champion, go through the processes, learn, institute more, better tools to deal with frustrations and be an inspiration to everybody to, figure out, hey, okay, I have these triggers and might not be handling the best way either. It worked for him. Maybe it can work for me. So hopefully we will see a win-win-win situation from his challenge.